The teacher repeatedly described my 7-year-old child as aggressive because he put his all into winning at sports and games. I had to interject numerous times, reminding the teacher that my child is competitive, not aggressive.
My biggest fear is him, later on, being criminalized after, the teacher kind of gives him a bad vibe, in a sense. And kids are smart. They'll pick up on how other people treat them, and then they'll act accordingly, I believe. So if he's being viewed as the troublemaker, then he's gonna fit that role in the future. And I know my son's not a troublemaker. He's actually very well behaved. But teacher will never know that because they don't. Well, at least this teacher.
My son started preschool when he was about 18 months old. A few months later, we had a meeting with his teacher for a regular 15-minute conference. Seems like all students have one. My husband and I were completely unprepared for that conference. We kind of felt duped. When we arrived, we sat down expecting to hear about our son making new friends, playing, and doing art projects. Instead, we spent the next 45 minutes hearing that our son was physical and aggressive. We heard that when he got frustrated, he put his hands on his friends. We heard that he was very busy. These were things she wanted to just make sure we were aware of.
My son had just transferred into a predominantly white school for 3rd grade. One of his teachers asked, how is he liking the school? When my son told him how he was liking the school so far, the teacher proceeded to tell him that he wouldn't have to watch over his shoulder because there was not a lot of students who looked like him there. This implied that students who look like my son caused problems and would be a cause for concern.
There were times he had a little Game Boy game cartridge in his pocket, and they're really little. And so he had forgotten it was even in his pocket, and he said he was waiting and pulled it out of his pocket, and the teacher immediately just walked up and took it away from him. And he said, I didn't even have my Game Boy with me, so how was I even going to play anything? It was just the cartridge. I forgot it was in my pocket, and he said, I just feel like they're watching me all the time. But he has said that at play, he felt like the teacher watched him more than the other kids. And when I would try and get him to explain what that meant, he just said, I just felt like she was just always there. Every time I turned around or if I said anything, she was just right there. And it was hard for him to really describe what that meant, just that she was always right there.
In kindergarten, my son was sent home literally every day with notes, petty things. He untied his shoes during story time. He accidentally scratched a kid with his fingernails. From their perspective, teachers spent more time watching the actions of black kids and being so hyper-focused on their actions that they ignored what other children were doing. In a similar manner, another parent noted that her son does not enjoy school and is unhappy when he is in school environments. The parent attributed this to the fact that some teachers continuously backlash black children for nothing, and they're sent out of class for nothing.
I volunteer in my child's kindergarten classroom. The teacher approached me and tells me, you need to watch out for Jamal. He held the scissors the other day and started swinging it at other students. The teacher made it seem like Jamal was a villain or criminal for pretending to use the scissors incorrectly. While she was conveniently saying, watch out, Johnny, a white boy in the classroom, held the scissors and did the same thing. The teacher said in a nice tone, Johnny, is that the right thing to do? And then carried on to the next lesson.
My son's teacher yelled at him for spilling a little paint. And mind you, it's washable paint. Other kids spilled it too, but it doesn't bother them, only when the black kids do it.
The thing I remember the most, I was picking him up and he got in the car and he was really upset. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, yeah, so I had my cell phone. So he said, I had my cell phone and school's out. I'm sitting there just waiting for you. I pull out my phone. Everybody else has their Game Boys or whatever, but the teacher makes me put my phone away. What's that about? And I could not give him an answer. And that happened to him frequently.
In first grade, my son was regularly sent home with notes regarding minor infractions. When I questioned him, he mentioned how 3 or 4 other boys, later discovered they're white, were also doing the same things. They didn't get into trouble. An incident happened where a Caucasian kid pointed out a rainbow, and about 3 other kids looked. I remember the main administrator specifically naming and shaming our son. Our son is quiet and tends to follow the crowd. He can get mouthy when questioned, but what kid doesn't when singled out? When 4 of the kids seem to get a pass. It doesn't help the situation, but can't blame him. Seems unfair.
My son's first grade teacher would call home for every little infraction. Some of the punishments were often severe for even a small thing that didn't match the crime, such as turning around in their seat one time would result in the whole day being marked bad. Some of the behavior issues that were written about would happen one time, and the teacher would prolong the punishment instead of dealing with it and moving on. I don't feel like he got the support he needed from his teacher that year.
When he is disciplined, it seems harsher and sterner than his white counterparts who participated in the same events. There appears to be some fear from the administration. They see through the lens of he's a danger because they're conditioned to believe he's a danger.
My child was in 2nd grade and his teacher was an older teacher. The child made a joke and his teacher made him cry. She said 2nd grade is no place for jokes. She then told another teacher that he is a clown, a class clown, and she made him stand in front of the class, including the other teacher and another associate, and she kept it up and made him cry. After making him cry, she also yelled at him. It's very bad to treat a child in such a manner. He cried and he was totally a basket case for a child that is going to follow him through his life.
I love my children, but sometimes they have problems at school. The teachers have the apple of their eye, and my children being black fall in the lesser. But this teacher yells at my son for the smallest thing.
Or I'm trying to remember one incident where he and another kid got into an argument, and he was given, they didn't really do in-house suspension, but he had to sit out recess, whereas the other kid got to play. And so it was just little things. It was interesting. It wasn't anything that was so overt that we could say, okay, yes, she's being racist or that teacher's being racist, but it was just all these little microaggressions that would happen to him. And he would see it and recognize it, but really have difficulty fully explaining what's really happening. He just constantly, I don't understand why she talked to me that way and then didn't talk to this other kid that way. And oftentimes the other kid was white.